My grandmother used to tell me stories about the red string of fate. She says that every person has one tied to their finger, and on the other end of the string is the person you are destined to be with. This relationship is said to transcend both time and space, and the two are meant to be with each other eternally. My grandparents met each other by following their strings. They said that it was the best decision that they ever made, and I was ready to make my decision as well. The moment I turned 21, I left home. Traveling to my destination without knowing exactly where it is was long and exhausting. At first, I was naive and thought that we lived in the same country, and if I just kept traveling east, then we'd meet. I took the train and hitchhiked, trying to save some money. I ended up reaching a dead end, but my destiny told me to travel across the seas, so I did. I took the plane and traveled to a closer country. Unfortunately, I used up all my money at that time and had to stay and work for a bit to be able to continue. I worked for a year, but it definitely felt longer than that. There were times I looked up the sky and wondered if he was doing the same. Was he also traveling to meet me? Did he know that I even existed? To answer my curiosity, I expectantly tugged at the string. I guess not. But that didn't stop me. I wanted to surprise him anyway. I worked and traveled, going further and further east. After traveling for 2 years, 8 months, and 17 days, I felt his first tug. It was the most exciting moment of my life so far, but not for long. Somehow I knew I was getting closer. Just a few more months, then I'm sure we'll meet. We pulled our strings back and forth for weeks. Even though there were no words exchanged, he was able to cheer me up when I was down and love me every day. Months passed and suddenly he stopped. The string wasn't cut. It was just that he stopped tugging. It made me reckless, and I grew more eager to see him. I took the plane and rode a bus all the way to the countryside. The sky was bright. The trees were green with flowers in full bloom, and the air had a sweet smell to it. I got off the bus and proceeded to walk. The string was leading me into a field. There must be a village up ahead, I thought to myself. I walked through a field of roses and picked a handful to give him. I fixed my hair, straightened my shirt, and put on some lipstick. I continued walking. Slowly, the sky looked darker, the trees browner, and the air heavier. With every step I took, I could see the end clearer and clearer, but there were no sign of him. In the middle of the field lay a tombstone, and the thread continued beyond the ground. I was still and silent. I didn't know what to do. The sun had set, but I stayed. I didn't even know what he looked and sounded like. I bawled my heart out until I passed out. My body laid on a field of roses until dawn. In my dreams, I saw a man standing in front of me. I couldn't see his face, nor could I hear his voice. He was holding out his finger, showing me his red string. Our string got shorter and shorter, and I soon found myself in his arms. He hugged me tightly, wrapping his long arms around me, and his head resting onto mine. We stayed like that for a while, and when he was just about to say something, I woke up. Ever since then, I found strength to live. I knew in my heart that he wanted to tell me something. I just had to keep dreaming. I dreamt for months to see his face and years to hear his voice. I was 26 when I finally heard his first words to me. "Let's be together," he says. "Over the 1,000 times I've had with you, I cannot stand to be apart any longer. You are my destiny. Come." I didn't understand what he meant. This is an impossible love. I looked down at my finger, and it was still there, the bright red string tightly tied. I tried a few more nights. We talked a lot. We got to know each other. We went on dates. We flew to different countries, ate amazing food, watched the sunset together. They were perfect. Every single time I tried preventing him from telling me to come. It sounded ominous, and if it was what I thought it was, then I couldn't do it. I was happy with what we had, at least at that time. More time passed, and the more I see couples around, the more I was persuaded stronger. In the end, I realized that my love for him surpassed time and space. On the night I decided to tell him, he came up to me and hugged me tightly. Tears flowed down his face. He held my hands and fondled with the string. "This will be the last," he said. He took out a pair of scissors from behind, and before he could do it, I grabbed him by the wrist and took the scissors away. I couldn't believe it. He wanted to cut ties with me. He knew how much it would hurt me, but he still decided to cut me out. I looked at his shocked face and I couldn't stand it. He begged me to forgive him, but I did not. Instead, I got angry. My love for him vanished then and there. I took a few steps back and forced myself to wake up. Panting, I looked at my finger and cried. I spent the mornings figuring out what I wanted to do. I was in a daze half of the time, and planning my revenge in the other. During the nights, he'd come begging at my knees, promising to love me forever. I'd force myself to wake up every single time. This went on for months. I had become so tired of it all that I turned to pills to help me sleep. Taking them once a week became 2, and 2 became every day. I found that taking pills prevented him from showing up in my dreams. It was all good for a while, until I started seeing him again. This time, however, it's when the sun is out. He would appear on my job, by my house, and in my bedroom. This time he wasn't begging. He was just standing there looking at me with hatred in his eyes. I tried to get rid of him numerous times. In the beginning, light punches and kicks drove him away, but he started getting persistent, and after a while, I was using objects to swing at him. It got extremely violent to the point where I'd be breaking things that surrounded me. I did not notice it immediately, but with every day that passes, the red string was turning black, and on the day it turned completely, he appeared in front of me holding another red string. He told me that if I let him tie that string over my black one, then we could be together forever. He said to trust him one last time. He opened his arms and signaled me to come. He mouthed the words, "I love you," over and over again, and the sincerity that I thought I saw made me want to give him another chance. I was an inch away from him when I saw the same old scissors hidden in his breast pocket. My eyes widened and looked at his smiling face. How could he? He tricked me again. I got closer and closer, and took the scissors out of his pocket and pointed it towards him. I loved you. I did. I took what bounded us together and pulled it hard towards me. The scissors I held in my other hand pierced his heart as his body approached me. Blood gushed out from his heart and tears from his eyes. Finally, I thought. I looked down on my finger and cut our string. Were the scissors dull? I tried again and again and again. It didn't work. I guess this is what it means to be eternally bound to someone. I grew up in a broken family. My parents were very violent with each other, and every day was like hell for us. I barely remembered any happy moments. All what's left in my memory was the loneliness and sadness. When my brothers and sisters turned 18, they all left the house, leaving me alone with my mom and dad. And with no one left to lash out their anger to, I became the center of it all. It was unbearable. There were a lot of times when I tried to escape reality, but I couldn't do it. I found my solace and it made me want to live. I started hiking to cheer me up. I'd go climb mountains and watch the sunrise from the top. It was breathtaking, but I felt like I was missing something or someone. One day, as I was wandering aimlessly by the mountains, I felt a tug at my fingers. I looked around, but there was nobody there. I felt it again and again, and suddenly a red string appeared tied around my finger. I tried removing it at first, but I couldn't. It didn't look harmful, so I decided to find out more about it. I walked around town asking old ladies about it. It just seemed like they would know about this stuff. It didn't take me long, but I found out that it was called the red string of fate. They said that whoever is at the end of the string is your soulmate. Soulmate. That word made my heart flutter. I have never had a person that loved me. To make sure that she was really there, I tried pulling the string a few times and she pulled it back. We'd pull the strings every day as if sending each other messages. No words were exchanged, but I felt comforted and happy. I decided then that I'm going to work and earn some money so I can go see her. I knew it was a crazy idea, but to me it seemed like being with her would be better than being with my family. Maybe I might have a shot at a nice and decent life. Months passed, and when I was finally looking forward to something, I got into an accident. As I was enjoying my usual hike, I slipped and hit my head on a rock. It was a clear day that morning. However, in moments' time, a huge thunderstorm came. The trail became slippery, and my vision was blurry. I tried holding on to a rock, but my fingers gave out and I rolled down the hill. I remembered my last moments looking at the sky and feeling one last tug. I woke up moments later in a dark, cold, empty place. I didn't think it was heaven, and neither was it hell. I walked and walked, trying to find someone who can help me. But I just walked in circles for what felt like an eternity. Until one day, it rained heavily again, and a lady appeared before me. She was tall and beautiful with long curly hair. Her face was dirtied. Her eyes were red and puffy. She just stared at me, and I stared at her. Then I saw her finger. I held up mine and it dawned on me. I gestured for her to come to me. As our string got shorter and shorter, she was cuddled in my arms. We stayed like that for a minute, and I decided to ask her that since we finally met, maybe she would like to hang out and get to know each other. But before I could even say the first words, she disappeared like a puff of smoke. Was it a dream? I thought to myself. I waited and waited till she appeared again. Every time we spent together, I tried talking to her, but she was not hearing any of it. She'd give me this look, and we'd spend the time just being with each other's company. It took us years until we were able to finally talk to each other. We got to know each other through our dates. It was amazing. It was the first time in my life that I connected with someone as much as her. Come, I adamantly said. I wanted to be with her for the rest of eternity. I know that it is an impossible love, but if our love is real, then it could transcend time and space. I was blinded for a second. I couldn't ask her to throw away her life for me. Seeing how she's such a wonderful person, she's bound to have a wonderful life ahead. Maybe even find a new person to love. I thought long and hard as to what I should do. It took months to finally convince myself to let her go. A pair of scissors appeared in my hand, and I knew then what I had to do. One night, as she appeared before me, I couldn't hold back my tears. I hugged her tightly and fondled with our string. "This will be the last," I said as I forcibly put on a smile. I took out the scissors I held behind my back, and the moment she saw them, she grabbed my wrist and took them away. The disappointment in her face made me want to take back what I just did. "No, you misunderstood. I tried to reason with her and ask for her forgiveness, but she backed away. She went away further and started slapping herself. She continued to do it even as I begged her to stop. And then she vanished. I dropped to my knees and cried. I cried and cried and I wanted to disappear. My heart ached for us. We were perfect together. Times passed, and she still appeared every night. I went and begged for forgiveness. I kept telling her how I would never do such a thing ever again, and that I would love her forever. But she'd just get angry and slap herself awake every time. She would also look paler and paler with every visit. She would walk funny and be zoned out most of the time, and it just got worse from there on. She would appear drowsy. She would start talking to no one. She'd get hysterical and collapse. I'd run to her, but she would disappear. After a while, she stopped showing up. I worried for her day and night. I wanted to go to her, but I couldn't. And as time passed, I noticed that the string was slowly turning black. At that rate, our shot at love will be over. I searched for the scissors that she took away. When I found them, I hesitated for a bit, but I tried cutting the string. I snipped and snipped, but it wouldn't break. And that's when another red string appeared on my hand. I looked at it and suddenly a thought dawned on me. Maybe if I put this other end onto her finger, then we could start all over. I saw a glimmer of hope. I prayed and begged to whoever could hear me to help me. There's got to be somebody, anybody. Then right behind me, an entity appeared. Here, watch this, she said. A bunch of scenes flashed before my eyes. I saw her struggling every day. She was punching and kicking and throwing stuff at nothing. She was hurting herself. There's one way to save her. Right now you're not able to appear before her, since she has taken drastic measures for you not to. As you can see, if this continues on, she's not going to make it. The moment your string turns completely black, you have one chance to appear in her world and save her. And so I waited. Finally, the day came. I was standing a few meters away from her. I showed her the red string and told her everything. I once again held out my hands, and I couldn't hold it in. I kept repeating the words "I love you" over and over again. To my surprise, she came towards me. My heart was pounding. She was less than an inch away from me when horror came on her face. She was visibly shaken. She got closer and closer and reached out her hand. She then pulled out the scissors that I had used to cut our string earlier in my breast pocket. She misunderstood. She pulled the string and my body flew towards her. "I love you." "I did," she said, and she pierced my heart a few seconds later. Blood gushed out of my heart and tears from my eyes. I saw her trying to cut our string, but it was useless. Our love can never be renewed, but we are still bound to each other for all eternity. Dear Diary, today I heard a rumor in school that if you call a certain number, you'd get connected to a person whom you are destined to meet in your life. One of the girls in my class did it, and she said that a man appeared in their video call. A few days later, she met him coincidentally in a cafe, and after that they started dating. Because of that, a lot of the other girls tried it out. Although not everybody is as lucky as her, they believe that sometime in the future, they would meet their boyfriends. I don't know if I believe this yet. I am intrigued by it, but... Anyway, I'll try to talk to a lot more people about this tomorrow and see if I change my mind. XOXO. Dear Diary, I've got unbelievable news. I've learned that a girl who was believed to have transferred schools last month had actually done this call and was suspected to have been killed by the person at the end of the line. It's all just hearsay, but I don't think it will hurt to try. I'm actually going to sleep over tomorrow at my friend's house. We assumed that doing it at night would amp up the creepy factor. Who knows? We might get to talk to a psychopath. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. XOXO. Oh my gosh. You won't believe what happened yesterday. So, last night we decided to take turns in calling the number. We figured that it would take about an hour for each call, so we decided to have the first one around 11 p.m. And lucky me got to have my call at 3 in the morning. So we finally made our calls. Everyone's was boring, I'd say. They talked about basic stuffs. It was such a waste of an opportunity, but forget about them. I had the most intense and thrilling conversation. We began talking about how he has a stepdad who drinks all day. He said that he wasn't a big fan of him, and deep inside wanted to get rid of him. I don't know him, but I too am not particularly fond of drunk men, so we jokingly discussed ways to get rid of him. I won't tell you the details for now, just 'cause it is a little embarrassing. I've never talked about this openly before with another person. People will think I'm crazy if I do. Anyway, because he lives in the next town, we can't visit each other. We'll have to wait for our summer break, which sucks a lot. For the meantime, we decided to call again tomorrow. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to learn more about him. XOXO. Sorry for writing so late. I had been so busy and tired. I was actually late for school these past 3 days. Never mind that. We talked for the whole day every day. I'm not exaggerating. From the moment we woke up to the time we slept, we were on the phone. Did you know that taking someone's life could maybe give a person a sense of control? I'm not saying I would kill someone, but I kinda do want control. We both wanted control. Just thinking about how people would fear us is so exciting. But then again, it is a crime to kill. But I may be able to do something without crossing the line. We'll see tomorrow. I hope it goes well. XOXO. So today I failed. For it to be considered self-defense, I have to choose the right people and the right timing. She was too big. I have to think about it thoroughly. I already got a misdemeanor in my record. My parents were called in, but it was all good. They don't care about me. They never did. All they cared about is how perfect my sister is. Anyway, first of all, I think a bullying situation is perfect. I have to find a bully who I can handle. Should I carry a knife? No. That would seem too suspicious. Should I do it in secret or in public? Public might be better for people to side with me. Oh gosh, I gotta polish my acting skills. Anyway, I'll plan this more in the next few days. Wish me luck. XOXO. I have great news. I succeeded. So let me tell you everything. Okay, so I stuck with that cheerleader as the bully. I went into the washroom and waited for her. She does the same thing every day. Before she heads to the cafeteria, she goes to the washroom and fixes herself in front of the mirror. She normally goes alone, so I just had to wait. When she came, I stood in front of the door and started to badmouth her. I also gave myself a few cuts here and there using a pen. I held the door slightly open, and when there were enough witnesses outside, I started screaming hysterically, asking her to leave me alone. She jumped on top of me, forcing me to stop. I waited and held back until someone finally came in and I kicked her in the stomach. While she benched down holding her stomach, I cried and asked for help. Luckily, they believed me, and I was seen as the victim. Oh, that thrill I got from seeing that frightened look on her face, and the sensation from kicking her. It was amazing. I wanted to do more. I want to. Anyway, I talked to him again after that. He was very proud of me. He told me that if I keep this up, we could maybe do something together over summer break. Just the thought of it excites me so much to the point that I want to practice some more. I want to hone my skills at this very moment. But I'm not dumb. Rash decisions would just result in failure. He thought me that. I feel like I'm in love. XOXO. Over the course of the next few months, entries similar to these were written. They were more graphic, and they detailed how she had been practicing and how they did their first kill as a couple. Dear Diary, it's finally time to meet him. Tomorrow at 3 in the morning, I will sneak out and head out to the station. It's about a 5-hour ride, so I'll have plenty of time to rest and get pumped up. Why? Well, that's because the moment he picks me up, we are going to head straight to the park. According to him, there is a woman in her early 20s that would always sit by the bench and have her coffee. It is an isolated area of the park. It is the best place to capture one. Then once we do, we are going to drive out into the forest and play with her a little bit. Don't worry, I won't bring with me big knives or axes. That would only create a huge mess. Instead, I'll bring a cutter knife, some gloves, a pantyhose, just in case she doesn't have one, and garbage bags. He told me not to worry about the other stuff. It's going to be my first time, so he told me to take it easy and just follow his lead. He's such a sweetheart. Anyway, it is going to be a big day tomorrow. I should sleep. Wish me luck. XOXO. It's been over a week since the incident. We've been on the run ever since. I don't know what went wrong, but something did. They're saying on the news that if we get caught, we might be facing the death penalty. I do not want that. Should I turn myself in? I should, right? Then I'll be shown mercy. But if I betray him, then he might hit me again. He has hit me twice this week already. He said that showing vulnerability is bad and that I should just trust him. What do I do? Time is running out. It has been a month now, and I can't take it anymore. If I continue this, I'd go crazy. I'd rather live than die in his hands. So tomorrow, I'm planning to drug him and head straight to the police station. I hope this works. Wish me luck. As you can see, these were the last entries in her diary. She had a change of heart. Yes, she may have assisted in killing them, but she was also a victim herself. When she was young, she wasn't in the right state of mind and help wasn't given to her. She found solace in him, which resulted in him using her as part of his ploy. She was also beaten and threatened. She's not a cold-blooded psycho murderer that the media has painted her to be. Please, before you decide on the verdict, think from her perspective as the victim as well. For this video, I would like to encourage everybody to imagine yourself as the main character of our story. And without further ado, let's begin. You take a deep breath, carry your bag over your shoulder, and take your first few steps into the National Ballet Academy. You walk through the door and adore all the framed photographs displayed on the walls. You then pass by the hallway where the trophies are displayed. You lightly touch the glass cases as you read the names on the trophies one by one. When you suddenly stop on your tracks because you see your mother's name. It reminds you of your mother, who was once known as the Queen of Ballet. Whenever she stood on stage, she became the center of attention with her ethereal movements and angelic smile. But most of all, it was the red shoes. The prestigious red ballet shoes were only worn by the top ballerina. Nobody knows how one receives them. It is believed that rather than you finding it, it finds and chooses you. Those shoes were the goal of every aspiring ballerina, including you. And so you are determined to work harder than anybody else and to prove that you are worthy of being your mother's daughter. You go into your first class and introduce yourself to the whole class. During the middle of your introduction, everybody keeps whispering. You try to listen what the whispers are about, but you cannot seem to. The teacher had to stop them strongly to proceed. All eyes are on you. You move to the very back of the class and hold the bar. Everybody stretches like they have no bones. Before you came to the school, you thought you were flexible, but they are on a whole other level. And when the music started, they all danced in sync. They are beautiful lilies in the pond, birds in the sky, and you are the ugly duckling. 1 and 2 and 3 and jump, 5, 6, 7, fall. You land on your face. Everybody silently stares at you and continue dancing. You rub your fingers against your nose, brace yourself and stand up. You dust off your tutu and go back in line. 1 and 2 and 3 and jump, 5, 6, 7, fall. Again. 1 and 2 and 3 and jump, 5, 6, 7, fall. 1 and 2 and 3 and jump, 5, 6, 7, fall. You can't do it. The bell rings and everybody rushes out of the dance room to have lunch. You slowly take the ribbons off of your ballet shoes and throw them into a corner. You bawl your eyes out as you try to remind yourself of your dream. You stay like that till evening. The moonlight shines through the huge glass windows, and that's when you realize that you are the only person left in the building. You take your bag and walk along the dim hallways, trying to find your way out. The sound of your footsteps echo through the walls, and the voice of your deceased mother calls out to you from afar. Entranced, you follow the voice to a room with glass mirrors surrounding all 4 walls and a huge glass case standing in the middle. Inside the case lay the infamous red shoes. You find yourself standing in front of it. You clench your hand into a fist. You lift it up and start pounding and breaking the glass case. Your hand breaks through and you grab the red shoes and run home. You stare at these shoes, undecided whether to wear them or not. You want it. It will make you popular. But then you remember. The shoes will just make them jealous, and you'll be left out even more. So you decide to keep it a secret for now. The next day you head to school. With your head down low, you go into class, head to the very back and wear your shoes. Nobody stood beside you, and you are left by yourself. One by one, you all had to perform a piece in front of the whole class. There's one girl that stood out to you. She's said to be the next top ballerina. Everybody cheered and clapped and was waiting for her to rise to the top. You envy her. You want what she has. Then it is your turn to dance. You dance gracefully and elegantly like you never did before. You did not miss a beat or fall. You are perfect. You are proud of yourself. But when you look around, you see that they all have a poker face. Nobody cheered or clapped. Nobody praised you. The room is silent. The teacher asks you to sit back down, and that's when you realize that no matter how good you are, people will never acknowledge you. Why? It's because you killed your own mother. Now, your ears open to the whispers that surround you. If only she hadn't been born. She took away our nation's top ballerina. How dare she try to take her mother's place? You rush home and shut yourself. From under your bed, the red ballet shoes call out to you. You slowly take it out and put it on. All of a sudden, you get this weird rush in your body as if your soul has been replaced with another one. The next day, you walk with your head held high and your red shoes on. You once again become the center of attention. Everyone looks at you with surprise and doubtful eyes. They follow you to your class where they watch you dance beyond the glass windows. Everybody is in awe. Even the girl who you envied watches you with surprise. Once the music stopped, she approaches you and demands, "Give me those shoes." The class surrounds the two of you as she bends down and unties your shoes. Her 2 lackeys forcibly hold you by the arms and you powerfully resist. You kick, punch, and scream your heart out. Their nails scratch you, leaving your ankles and arms bloody. Just as they are about to take them off, with your right hand, you take a hairpin out of your hair and stab her in the face. She dodges it and gets off with a little scratch on her cheek. All the girls immediately back away. You calmly bend down, grab your stuff, and walk away with your fists clenched tightly. The shoes are broken. No one will take what is mine, you tell yourself. After school hours, you go into every dance room and loosen the screws on the dance bars. You go to the locker room and take a bag of glass shards. You open each and every locker and stuff all the shoes with them. You drench the hallways with oil as well. You leave the school and excitedly think about what awaits tomorrow. You purposely walk into school later than usual. Even from outside the doors, you can already feel the fear and havoc you caused. From left to right, you see people with bloodied feet and broken backs and necks. You smirk as you make your way to your locker and take out your pair of shoes. You slowly step into them and tie your ribbons as usual. With the shards rubbing against your feet, your peach-colored shoes slowly turned red. You head to class and stand in the middle of the room. While everybody sat around and bandaged their feet, you start performing your dance routine. Everybody looks at you with horror and respect. You twist and turn, jump and land. The shards rub against your feet aggressively, but it doesn't show on your face. Your 3-minute performance ends with a bloody trail and a newfound respect from your classmates. As you stop and take your bow, the girl who you used to envy stares at you and murmurs, "Murderer," repeatedly. You stare her down and without a moment to lose, you kneel in front of her and whisper in her ear, "You'll be my first." You gave her a shock and on reflex she picks up a broken shard and aims at you. This is for before. You block it with your hand and it pierces through. You are irked. You cannot believe that someone still dared to stand against you even after all you've done. You see her fiery eyes and felt everyone else's stare. You take a step back and leave the room. That night, you wait by the front door, and the second she steps out of the school doors, you grab her by her hair and drag her all the way behind the school. You break her legs and cut her throat just enough to keep her from talking. You soak your shoes with your enemy's blood and tells her, "Shut up, or you won't live to see me become the star." And you casually walk away. With your new red shoes, you make your way to stardom. Back when I was about 13 or 14 years old, me and my younger sister decided to watch a horror movie one night. We stayed up till almost 2 a.m. watching this ghost kill people. Once the movie was done, my younger sister was cowering underneath her blanket. She kept begging for us to sleep with the lights on, but I refused. Even though I could not get the ghost out of my head, I wanted to strongly show her that I was not a scaredy cat. I proudly suggested to stay beside her till she fell asleep, then I would move to my bed. So I did. I was restless. I covered my whole body with my blanket to try to sleep, but I just couldn't. The sounds of the water dripping from the faucet, the wind blowing against the window, and the ticking of the clock creeped me out. When my toes or fingers would peek out the blanket, I would get this weird feeling that someone would grab me from underneath my bed and pull me to my doom, where they would scare me to death. It kept me up till 3. I curled up into a fetal position, put the pillow over my head, and closed my eyes. A few minutes passed, and from right behind me, I heard the sound of a child crying. My eyes instinctively opened, and my heart was beating faster than ever. I wanted to turn my head around to take a look, but it would not move at all. I tried moving my fingers and toes, then my head once again. Nothing happened. My whole body was frozen. The crying continued, and even though I was faced away from it, I could clearly see what it looked like and what it was doing. From behind my bed, a head suddenly comes up. Then its hands grabbed hold of my blanket and pulled his tiny little body up to my bed. It sat there holding out its hands. It was skin and bones, like a very malnourished child. I could see his ribcage poking out, its shoulder blades almost piercing through its skin, and his sharp cheekbones that casted a huge shadow over its mouth. Its eyes were red and glowing, and it was crying blood. It was looking straight at me. I was scared to death. I wanted out. I could still see it even when I closed my eyes. Again, I tried moving different parts of my body, but nothing. I started panicking and crying, and at the same time, its crying got louder as well. It felt like hours passed by when I finally took a deep breath and focused all my energy into moving one finger. It took a lot of tries and grunting, but finally I was able to move it just a little bit to jolt me out of bed. My pajamas were soaked with sweat, and I could hear my own breathing. I slowly looked behind my bed and underneath, and thankfully it was not there. I looked at the clock and it was only 3:05. I turned my head towards my blanket and saw it pulled away from me. I couldn't sleep at all that night. Weeks passed and it had not shown up after that. I lowered my guard and then my second experience happened. My whole family gathered at my parents' room for some late-night movie. I laid out my mattress beside my mom's bed, which was near her desk. It got pretty late and everybody started falling asleep one by one. This time, I woke up to a crackling sound. Again, I was not able to move at all, but I could see everything around me. A tall, dark, slender figure rose up over my head, looking at me straight on. Before I could look straight at its eyes, the computer beside me turned on. It started making loud, static noises. The chair in front of it slowly turned. Then the TV across the room started playing the horror movie earlier. At the same time, I can feel it slowly reaching for me with its long, sharp nails. Both the sound from the computer and TV shot up to max volume, but it was not loud enough to drown out its screeching. I wanted to hide myself under the blanket. I knew it was impossible, but I tried to move my body and scream for my parents. Using its 10 sharp nails, it pinned me down, digging its nails into my skin. Its drool dripped down my face as it stood right above me. The slippery, cold drool gave me shivers. Just as it was about to eat my face, with all my strength, I lifted up my finger once again. I jolted out of bed. I looked around and I saw my family sleeping peacefully. I touched my arms and there were wound marks. A few months passed. My family went on a vacation. We stayed at a hotel and visited lots of different temples. It was all beautiful and fun, but I couldn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped. The whole time, my shoulder felt heavy and it was hard to breathe. On the second night, I had to stay back at the hotel. I couldn't get out of bed. It felt like a boulder was sitting on top of me, getting heavier and heavier. The moment my family left the hotel, I shut my eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Moments passed and I opened my eyes, and I saw a man walking along the corridor. He was wearing a cap that covers half of his face, a long dark trench coat that hugged his strongly built body, military boots that were muddy and bloody, and a lit cigar in his mouth. He casually walked while playing with the knife in his hand. He stopped by my door and started pounding like crazy. He looked through the peephole, started to shout. I couldn't hear anything. Everything was muted and he looked furious. He began to use his whole body and slammed the door. In about 10 seconds, I knew that he would have been able to enter, so like before, I tried my hardest to move my finger. Luckily, I was able to wake up. I immediately got out of bed and checked the door. Everything seemed fine. I opened the door and checked outside. At first glance, there were no signs of anybody, but when I looked down, there were footprints, muddy and bloody ones, from the middle of the corridor all the way to my floor. I panicked and with no time to lose shut the door and bolted the locks. I called the front desk with a phone in my room and told them about the footprints and a possible intruder in the hotel. They asked me to stay put and assured me that the security team will be on their way to investigate. I waited in my bed with a blanket over my head. 6:01, the clock read. 58, 59, 6:02. They still haven't arrived. 58, 59, 6:03. 58, 59, 58, 59, 58, 59. There was a knock at the door. I jumped out of bed and peeked through the hole. A guy dressed in a suit was standing in front. I gladly opened the door, but it got caught halfway. I had forgotten to unlock the chain. As I closed the door once more, I noticed his right hand fumbling with a lit cigar. I carefully looked down and he was not wearing leather shoes. They were big and heavy, muddy and bloody. I lifted my head up. He smiled and started pushing the door open. I pushed the door back, but with my strength compared to his, it was only a matter of time. I ran towards the bathroom and locked the door. I took out the hair dryer and held the ends of the cords with both hands. I stood on top of the counter and waited for him to come. I can hear him use a knife to break the door down. He went straight to the bedroom and started stabbing the blanket. He then went out to the balcony and then turned his attention to the bathroom. He breaks the door open in 3 tries. And the moment he enters, I took the handle to wrap the cord around his neck. I pulled with all my might and was able to bring him down onto his knees. While he was weakened and trying to catch his breath, I ran out of the room and to the fire escape. I ran through flights of stairs, when the door busted open in front of me and he jumped out. He grabbed me by the shirt, pulled me close and threw me against the wall. I tried to stand up and run away, but I lost my footing and fell down the stairs. I hit my head on the concrete. He jumped on top of me and with both hands held the knife and was going to stab me. Then I passed out. I opened my eyes, wiped my sweat, and tried to calm myself down. I went up to get a glass of water, when suddenly there was a knock at the door. I remember my dream and cautiously walk up to it. I peeked through the hole and just like the man I saw in my dream, a guy similar to him was standing in front. I slightly opened the door to check for the cigar and shoes, and luckily they were fine. I breathed a sigh of relief and unlocked the chain. I twisted a knob when the phone in the room rang. I hurriedly picked it up and left the door slightly open. Hello? Hello. This is the front desk speaking. We just wanted to let you know that there had been an incident down at the lobby, thus the security team was not able to come up right away. We are sorry for the delay. They will be going up shortly. I heard footsteps coming close from behind me, and when I looked back, that same cigar, shoes, and knife were all I could see. Hello? Hello? Is everything okay?